It's a
Okay.
critique of authoritarianism, not a
Oh, you should read Animal Farm. Animal Farm
it's
rocks.
George Orwell isn't writing for advocating for democratic socialism in 1984. It's a critique of authoritarianism.
Yeah, but
Like,
he's a
it's not-
democratic socialist, and a democratic socialist is well positioned to critique both communism and fascism because they're very, very focused on democratic functions and freedom. So democratic socialism's good. Socialism's not good. Communism's not good. But democratic socialism has always been a good thing. But like, yeah, social democrats, I would say are fine. Liberals, fine.
I'm just saying you can't cite 1984 as a reason to believe in democratic socialism.
No, I'm just saying that the person who wrote all this stuff that people go back to talk about, like, oh, this is 1984. Like, yeah, this is what the democratic socialists predicted about authoritarianism that everyone agrees with. It just shows that a democratic socialist can have opinions that are like, useful.
Yeah, but I mean,
sober.
Honestly, like if you read the founding fathers' works, like a lot of the same kind of themes are there. Like in same thing with 1984. It's like
yeah, we're getting
like
close to the
about authoritarianism.
Yes, sir. And why did they
But
have
also they were
why did they have checks and balances?
socialists. They were not democratic socialists.
Well, that wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah, so democratic socialism leans toward being better than socialism. I still don't agree it's a positive thing.
It's a
But
completely
I'm still
different
on
thing
the
from
boat.
socialism.
I'm still on the boat of less government, better.
More government.
More government.
Well, it's kind
Like,
of what we're
honestly, if you
seeing
look at
with
like,
Trump.
if you look at Teddy
It's kind
Roosevelt,
of like what we're seeing. It's kind of like what we're seeing with the deportation of that Colombian student that had a green card because he spoke up. So they're trying to deport him because he spoke. That
Well, yeah,
to me is like
yeah.
that's pointing toward too much government control.
Well, that's a direct constitutional violation of freedoms, very basic freedoms.
I would say
yeah,
that's
really
that's
bad.
not enough government control because it's one man basically. It's one party just kind of going, okay, now we're gonna get rid of
the
these
issue
people.
with talking about government. When I say I like big government, people get mad at that. But I say big government in the sense that the people control it, not that it's one powerful person controlling everything. Big government's good if it's decentralized through local governments, state governments, and then the federal government tied together. So, like, I mean, when we talk about democratic socialism, I would say that Alexander Hamilton, Teddy Roosevelt, and FDR would find a lot of agreement when it comes to the centralized system to make sure we're driving public infrastructure programs, make sure we're like having a national bank and also regulating it. So I'd say like democratic socialism falls in line with those people, trust busting, that kind of stuff. But I'd probably just say
Maybe
social democrat.
Maybe Hamilton. Hamilton wanted stuff like a centralized bank and. Yeah, Hamilton.
Yeah, he wanted to develop like public infrastructure, but then like Thomas Jefferson was like no.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson was based.
I don't know if there's a play called Jefferson.
It seems like every time that socialism has been implemented on a grand scale, it falls apart.
You just don't like, okay, if you look at like Denmark and Norway and Nordic countries, or like most European countries, that's all Bernie Sanders advocates for. Maybe a little bit further with healthcare, like he wants the Canadian system single payer. But as far as the economic system's concerned, they still have markets in these systems. He's not for abolishing all markets. And like you have examples all throughout the world. The most prosperous nations are social democratic, in terms of like life expectancy, happiness, and everything. Like Canada ranks like top 4, top 3 with happiness and quality of life for a reason.
But they also prescribe suicide for depression.
Yeah, and I think our
they don't just prescribe suicide for depression. If you really think that's an actual opinion, then you have to go reevaluate your brain because it's not connected right. Like there's no way they prescribe suicide for depression. That's a very, 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 very long process, with years of checks and years of confirmation that you want to go through with it. And if someone's going to be committing suicide, if they can do it in a comfortable setting, it's probably better that way rather than jumping off a bridge or something. So like if that happens if you have a 5-year period where every year you say, yes, I want to die, I want to kill myself, or I want to die, then yeah, then there might be options in certain countries where they're experimenting with programs like that. But there's not a depressed person. There's not a depressed person who just like, oh, wait, you're really depressed. We got to put you in the death pod and kill you. Like, no, it's a very, very long process. It's like you have to go through a bunch of waivers, a bunch of like evaluations. It's not as simple as like, oh, I don't want to be alive anymore, so I'm gonna like end it. Like, it's just not that simple.
I think you're gonna have a
death affirming care.
a very valid form of healthcare, in my opinion. I think everyone should have options for unnatural deaths. I hate the concept that you cannot end your life if you're struggling at the end of it, or you're like in pain until you die in hospice. I hate that.
I think
Now,
anybody
I will
that's ever
say
had like a
I've been.
personal like relationship with somebody that's in hospice or has ever worked hospice would agree with your sentiment.
Yeah, I've seen family members die, and it's like, holy shit! I wish I could pull the plug on them. I've considered like, shit, I'm just gonna shoot him in the head real quick, get him out of there, put
So
him out
why
of
does the
misery.
government need to be in charge of that? Why couldn't society be in charge of that?
The government is a way for society to be in charge of it. That's why you want to be democratized and not have like.
The people. But,
Would you advocate for a total democracy? Every decision gets voted on?
No, you'd have like not every decision. That's why you have like private markets and public systems, but you'd have less money in politics. You'd have more representatives to represent communities better. We've had a couple hundred representatives for the past like 300 years, so we probably need more of those to match our population percentages.
Yeah, I can get behind less money in politics, that's for sure.
But the only people that want to get money out of politics are people like Bernie Sanders. That's the issue, or AOC.
Right. There's one guy that I saw today, a Democratic politician in either Congress or the Senate, that wears like a hoodie and shorts.
Oh, that guy.
John Fetterman.
What is that guy's name?
John Fetterman.
Yeah, Fetterman. He seems pretty moderate to me.
Well, yeah, because he talks about
Except
social
he's
issues.
become a Trump cock.
Well, yeah, that's why he talks about social issues. His economic policies are more progressive.
Never mind. Are we on live right now or no?
Yeah, you're on live right now. I told you I'm going live.
Okay.
Broadcasted.
We are? Oh,
how are all of y'all doing right now?
I just want to make sure I didn't say something too bad.
Yeah, you gotta.
Damn, I'm on record.
I'm sorry for what I just said then.
I mean, right now in this
so
system, if you're a libertarian, if you don't vote for a democratic socialist, you're probably just screwing over freedom in general because of all the money that people have at the top. We need trust busting. We need monopoly busting. That's the only way for the system to be reset. There's no way we can ever get to a point of freedom in America if we don't take care of that issue with monopolization and companies getting too big.
I would agree with you there.
Just for a little bit. Like you need it's like you can vote for different candidates at different times. If we had a 90% income tax rate, I'd vote for someone who wants to lower it. If it's like 10%, like they want to do now with corporate taxes, I'd probably vote for someone who wants to like make it bigger. If the corporations bought government, so we're not breaking up monopolies anymore, I'd probably make sure that I'm voting for someone who wants to break up monopolies because that kills the free market for monopolies to form. So
basically, the ebb and flow that we had before the first Trump era was working the best. The ebb and flow, but now we have Trump and everything's bipartisan.
Well, now we have Trump and nothing makes sense at all. Like we can't even have a normal conversation about anything anymore.
Right. Everything is bipartisan, even good things. Democrat does something good. Every Republican hates it.
I don't
Republican
know.
does something good. Every Democrat
I don't know what
hates it.
Republicans are doing good other than I mean, if you like killing government, then they're doing something good, I guess. But
I do like killing government. I'm a libertarian.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody should have a homestead and do the thing. Not everybody.
Yeah, just hard that position is just not really. It's kind of like communism, where it's really hard to actually make it actually be a thing. That's why the systems like libertarianism and communism always fall to authoritarianism because there's always going to be that power vacuum that something takes up, and if the people don't take it up, like our founding fathers did, through some type of strong government, then private entities do take that power, and abuse people with it.
Yeah, I kind of rephrased myself to being a pseudo libertarian.
Our initial federal government was much smaller than it is today.
I mean, not in proportion to the size of the country. Per person, it's much smaller today than it was back then.
We've created like 223 departments, governmental departments in the last 70 years.
Yeah, if you look at the functions, we're not talking about the literal size, we're talking about the functions.
The size and the functions is one and the same because we need more. We need to grow the government to take care of things like homeland security or we did not have airplanes before. We did not have like social security before. We added a bunch of new programs that we needed to add, agencies to run and enact like through the executive branch, you know, from the laws we pass in Congress. So of course it's going to get bigger in that sense. But that's a congressional thing, though.
Yeah, the functions have gotten much bigger than the origin.
But it's got much.
than it was when
It's
it
much more
originated.
complicated. It needs to get bigger. It needs to be bigger and more complicated because the world is, right? In some sense.
We're attacked far
Yeah,
greater
but
degree.
that's the thing. That's the other thing is imagine how much more complicated the world has gotten in 40 years.
I mean, even just in the past year alone, how much more complicated.
Yeah, well,
the
that's
world's
true.
gotten.
Also, yeah.
Last month.
I mean, geopolitically, we are like heading into a different age. Like there is going to be a new chapter in the textbook starting here. So,
What
yeah,
do y'all think about Ukraine signing the peace deal?
it's not
It's
exactly
for 1 month.
Jeez. Yeah, it's for 1 month.
I mean, they've wanted.
My bad.
Well, they want a cease. They've been wanting a ceasefire forever. I mean, when Russia invaded, they broke the ceasefire that already was there before. That's why Ukraine said they want actual security guarantees. Because yeah, Russia broke the ceasefire when they invaded.
Wasn't it like Rubio and then like a Ukrainian team, not including Zelensky, in Dubai? I think the Ukrainians just like convinced them. They're like, okay, guys, this is how it actually is.
Well, also Ukraine's messing Russia up too. Like Ukraine is effing Russia up bad.
It's so
like,
true.
Yeah, they're kicking their ass, really.
Because Ukraine has what 50,000 dead, and Russia has 600,000.
And now Putin had to do a propaganda run today, wearing like a little military outfit. Look up a picture of him. He's like, I don't know.
You know, he's kind of a short guy.
Yeah, he is very, very short, but he's a puppet too. They're all the heads of states are puppets in a sense. They're there for propaganda. Trump is, they all are.
So Jola, I think I don't know if it was Trump that come up with the deal, but I think the idea for us using mineral rights, putting U.S. citizens in Ukraine, is a deterrent for Russia.
But like that's the issue though. Like in Africa, all throughout Africa, we have U.S. citizens and workers there and businesses, and there's still wars all of the time. And we could just like right now we're proving to different countries we can pull out whenever we want. We can cut off intelligence to Ukraine, which caused a couple hundred Ukrainians to die, and supported Russia cutting aid randomly that we already paid for. Even just through intel, like blocking Ukraine from intel to try to force them to take a bad deal.
Well, even like Russia moving on U.S. citizens in Ukraine would be a deterrent for Russia.
I mean, it's not in the other. It's really not in these other countries. And then, like what I said before, if they don't get an actual deal, we can go ransack them, just like take everything they have and leave, and then Ukraine's screwed again in a year. So it's like it needs to be actual security guarantees. It needs to be from different nations too. Like Europe needs to be in there too. U.S. We need to have like troops and European troops too.
And here's an example for Africa also is that like right now, so like the DRC, isn't this right, Jola? You can correct me if I'm wrong. But the DRC or the Congo, right, is where we get like a lot of cobalt from, and Rwanda is literally invading them right now, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about it.
During the first couple of weeks of Trump's presidency, the leader of the Congo sent a message to Trump offering mineral rights to help defend them against Rwanda.
Yeah, and?
Well, I asked everybody if they would be up for that, but I guess it's just not being spoke about it. I don't know. For some reason, it took a back page. I don't know why it did, because I thought it would be beneficial to go into Congo. They're most mineral rich country on the planet, as far as I understand.
Yeah, Congo is complicated.
Why would we personally go to another country to try to invade their mineral rights?
We're not invading their mineral rights.
Congo offered their mineral rights for the United States to send soldiers to defend the Congo against Uganda.
Well, it's part of USAID pulling out too. Like USAID helped keep a lot of these places of the world much more stable, providing healthcare, providing trade routes, and everything. So killing USAID means we have to go to more hard power throughout the world to maintain any type of
Did you see the USAID picture with terrorists in front of the background?
Dude, I guarantee that there will be chaos in Afghanistan because they cut USAID. I guarantee it. So
it was in Afghanistan where the USAID had a background put up with their name on it, and there was a group.
Oh, the Taliban.
There was a Taliban. I think it was Hamas that was in front of the banner. In front of the banner, with the USAID, and they had rocket launchers and masks on. So USA
Can you find this
was
picture?
directly fund. Yeah.
No, the USA was not directly funding them. USAID was not funding terrorists. So we see, if you see a supply crate, or if you see like logos, there are crates with the USAID logo on it, but there's a much better chance that they simply seized the crates or the banners. You're not directly funding terrorist organizations through USAID. There's zero proof of that. And even if that picture was something USAID sent to the civilian somewhere and they stole it, it would not be proof either. That would just be them like invading an area.
Is the Congo one of the African countries that are currently engaging in slave trade?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay, so
I just want to ask that question because that would be another reason why we would not accept mineral rights or make a deal like that with their government. If it would look really bad, it would look like we'd be accepting.
They were funding gay shows. Hey, Kuna, call in, dumbass. Paul, call in, dumbass. Christopher, call in, dumbass. You think, oh, we should leave Ukraine. You don't know anything about the world at all, except your mother's basement. Come in the freaking chat. We'll talk about it. I want to see how much you know about the world.
Chat.
Your disconnected spinal column from your brain is going to have to hook back in for you to speak a sentence.
Dude. That's just a building, and they happen to be in the building.
Why should we spend troops? No one said to put troops on the ground. We said if there's a 50% minerals deal without security guarantees, it's a bullshit deal. But Ukraine was still going to sign it. And the U.S. had the bluff.
Yep. They signed it yesterday or today.
Yeah, and the U.S. bluffed initially. And then now they're putting it back in Russia's. The issue with ceasefires, too, is that Russia uses it to rearm all the time. So it'll be really interesting to see them in a few weeks.
Would you say the ceasefire is beneficial at this time?
Beneficial for who, Red?
Probably not.
For everybody overall.
Probably not.
Really?
Russia just has more time to. Russia just has more time to build up its arms and other stuff like that. That's really all it does. I don't know what.
How does Ukraine? I mean, it gives the same opportunity to Ukraine.
Russia
but
has
Ukraine has more allies.
Power.
Ukraine has more allies.
Well, not we. They lost us.
I cannot find the name of this man.
Because they signed the mineral rights deal, they have us back. They didn't lose us. They lost for 4 days, but they have us back, and they also have Europe. I would say Ukraine probably has more economic power than the China, North Korea, Russia combination.
Wait,
and China's just loosely Ukraine. With all of Europe and the United States behind them, they have more than Russia, North Korea, and half of China.
Wait, more what?
I mean, you realize that we purchase most of our product, like most of the stuff that you use in your home, in the average home,
from China.
Comes from China. So when you say that China is funding Russia, you could say that America is funding Russia by proxy.
In a weird way, as soon as it becomes popular or public, that in a big way that China is funding Russia, I bet you there will be large tariffs and large economic issuance against China via the United States and other countries.
No, we're going after Canada. Canada's the enemy.
It's not very public that China has boots on the ground in Russia yet, but
Canada's the enemy. Well, North Korea, China, and Russia are together to defeat the U.S., which is why it's also really bad. The U.S. is like tentatively supporting Russia.
In a weird way. I mean, we have large tariffs and large economic issuance against Russia right now. And anyway, it's just some lowlife spreading Russian propaganda.
I mean, you do realize that if you wanted to break away from China, if you want to decrease the amount of imports that we get from China, we would have to have a majority of those industries here in one way, shape, form, or another, and be able to grow them.
Which is not possible.
Yeah, and that's a big problem, and that's something that we should have been focusing on 30 years ago instead of today. You know, why we moved all our manufacturing over to China during the mid-90s.
Well, it's really good to have a North American trade agreement with Canada and Mexico. That was really helping all of North America, our security, our energy independence. But Trump killing that is really good for China. Us killing USAID is really good for China. Us leaving Ukraine is good for China. Like all of this stuff we're doing right now globally is good for China. So I don't know one thing we're doing that's anti-China.
But to be clear, if we left Ukraine for 4 days, but they have our funding now. Because they signed the mineral rights
but like
deal.
you know what that does though? If we're gonna go like back and forth on our promises, that kills the U.S. dollar. It kills the trust of the U.S. globally. Countries are gonna say, I don't know if we can trust. Like I don't know if we could give the U.S. intel. Is it going to Russia? We don't know. Like is it where's it going? Like we don't know what this administration is gonna do with it.
Well, hang on, we're actively funding Ukraine and actively taking money away from Russia and sanctions and tariffs. I think it's clear whose side we're on, but I agree with it does devalue our promises.
Well, Trump is saying the EU was made to kill the U.S., and also countries like Ireland are taking advantage of the U.S. Canada is. Mexico is. You can argue the U.S. is taking advantage of Canada, by the way, with our trade deal. And also, like he says,
what about the 393% tariff on dairy products?
That's not real, dude.
Okay, yeah,
that's like not a real thing.
It's so how it works is it's for like a huge amount of goods. So if there's an economic disaster for national security purposes, the tariff only kicks in at a very, very, very high amount of total imports. So I don't know if there was ever a time in history where those tariffs actually kicked in. So those tariffs do exist, but it's like after how many $11 million in goods?
I don't know.
Yeah,
it would be an ocean of milk.
Yeah. It's like it's such a high limit. It's just to protect from like economic devastation to flood their markets if something bad ever happened.
Is that the same with the 260% steel attack tariff?
Yeah, both every tariff that Canada has at 260, 300% is like super, super high number of imports for it to even kick in. So you don't like import past that number.
What about the 120% tariff on aluminum?
I don't.
We gave away our manufacturing in the 90s. I thought it was a terrible mistake. See, when you open up free trade, it definitely booms the market, but in the long run, it also subtracts from the market, just like tariffs do. There needs to be an ebb and flow with free trade and tariffs, just like there is within the right and the left in politics.
Tariffs are bad in general. I mean, I would never want to use them for anything.
There's 3 stages. There's 3 stages of tariffs. The first stage, the citizens pay the taxes. The second stage, companies start coming back and manufacturing booms. But the third stage is foreign countries run out of money and they don't have the money to buy our products.
Why is it important to manufacture here?
There's a lot of people without jobs, and us manufacturing and shipping overseas brings money to us.
That's hard though, because
we don't have to do like base level manufacturing, right?
We also our economy does not run on exports. Also, we don't need it.
There's a lot of people without jobs. Like there's a labor shortage right now.
And we're still one of the largest manufacturing companies in the world. Yeah, we had one of the lowest unemployment percentage, lowest unemployments under Biden. Also, under Biden's presidency was actually the highest wage of all time, and adjusted for inflation, the highest wage the working class has ever made. Even back New Deal era. So like under Biden, the working class did better than it did in history because of the tight labor market.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. But I will say in 2017 under Trump, to boost Trump's numbers, they stopped factoring in people that were not actively looking for a job. So unemployment has looked down for the past decade.
There's different unemployment metrics. There's 2 different. There's one that counts that. There's one that doesn't. So both of them still correlate with each other. But you're looking at the other number as well. Those have always existed. There's one that's gonna be like 20%. Then there's one that's gonna be like 4%. The 4% does not include those. Just like.
From what I understand, Trump is the one that started quoting the lower number of people that were not looking for jobs. So it started with Trump.
No, they always use both. They always use both. Trump just said he started using it because he's an asshole and he lies a lot. But like we've always had both metrics. It just depends on which one you want to look at.
It would be a bad thing for Trump to admit that. Like if Trump admitted that, it would be revealing that he was lying.
Well, Trump doesn't. Yeah, I know, but Trump would never admit anything, and he lies about everything. So I don't know. I don't know one thing Trump said the truth about. I don't know one thing he said the truth about in his life.
He didn't say that.
I know. I'm just saying. I don't know one thing he said the truth about. I'm just saying for him, I don't know one thing he ever said true.
Yeah, okay. CNN is the one who said it, and they're the ones that called him out on that.
CNN's stupid. I don't even know. I don't even care. Bring me some real reporting.
Going back to this picture for 2 seconds, another thing about it is that whoever originally posted this had absolutely no idea what they were talking about, because going on the internet, like a bunch of the stuff around it says that ISIS, the Islamic State, is linked to Al Qaeda, which I mean, kind of, but they're rivals, like they're vicious rivals, and so it's absolutely ridiculous that like they say they're ISIS linked, which is linked to Al Qaeda. Like it's so tenuous, and you could say that HRT, the entire group that's like controlling Damascus right now, is linked to Al Qaeda. It's like it's just so like completely insane. Like it's such straw. Like, okay, yeah, they're standing in front of this. They could have taken it. I mean, they were literally like it could have been abandoned because of the cuts, and they just moved in. Like, it's so just nothing.
Do you believe there was some waste in USA waste at all? And that some of that
waste. I mean, the answer for any program ever.
No, I don't think that any waste went to terrorist organizations. I'm.
Terrorist organizations, no, not directly.
You know that with Ukraine, Zelensky admitted to losing $100 billion.
No, that wasn't what he said. That was misquoted. When he was talking about that, it's because Trump lied about the numbers. So Zelensky's like, where the hell is this money that he promised? Because he said we got this money, we didn't get it. Because we only sent them like $60 billion in cash. We sent them like $70 billion in weapons. So he was saying, where's all this money you're talking about? Because you just never, because Trump lied about the numbers. So he was confused about it. So he did not lose $100 million. That was taken out of context.
Yeah, he didn't fund Al Qaeda. The USAID does not fund terrorist organizations. Like these things don't. It's not happening.
Okay, we can say that hundreds of billions of dollars, and there's not a few dollars missing. Sure.
I'm not saying there's not any fraud at all.
Thank you for reframing the claim. By the way, we went from there's $100 billion missing to maybe there are a few dollars missing here and there. Of course, it's possible that some of the aid that was supposed to get there didn't end up getting there. The point that we're arguing against is whether it was $100 billion, which there's no evidence for having been lost.
And the efficiency of private organizations. Private organizations have much more waste than government organizations do, by the way.
Who in USAID is like, you know what we should do? We should give money to the Islamic State. That's what we should do. Like, why? Why would that happen? They're literally fighting against the people who what?
Call from.
Hello.
Hi.
Howdy.
I'm wondering what's your I see you saying that Trump is terrible. I'm just wondering what's your opinion. How would you lead the economy?
Donald Trump has flimsy leadership. He doesn't know how to lead men. He cannot get them in agreement on any policy. He does not listen to how free markets work. He does not understand it. He has no plans or policies. He is just a demagogue.
Okay, I'm just asking, what's your opinion when you would be the president? How would you lead it?
I would start off by pushing an initiative to make sure that we have fair taxes across the board, taxing higher income individuals more, lower income individuals less. I would fund programs and our infrastructure to match the infrastructure of Europe. So we have good infrastructure, so our crime rate goes down. I'd look for a more prosperous United States with more people covered by healthcare. I'd have an actual healthcare plan. I'd have plans for a bunch of different things if I was running for president.
Okay, so let's take one thing at a time. So first, by taxing rich people. What's the tax rate of rich people? Do you know that?
Right now, the top income tax rate is around 28, 30. I'm pretty sure. I forget the exact numbers. The corporate tax rate is definitely at 21. I'd probably put the tax rate back up to 30 for the corporate tax rate, and then the top income back to like 40.
Did you ever include the states, like how much rich people actually pay if they live, let's say if they live in a blue state? Did you actually calculate that number?
I would calculate that number. And I know I would be going back to probably Obama's tax system before Trump passed his tax law.
I think as an accountant, I know it's near 50%, or not, or not, or if it might be even 50% in some cases when you're double taxed or. So what do you want to increase? Like, how do you want the cuts under Trump are not cuts that benefits the rich people directly because they have enough money. It just benefits the corporations, not the people. So I agree that the corporation has the cut, but the only people that gets profit of the corporation are anyone that invests in the stocks. And but when it comes to their personal tax return, they have to pay much higher than the corporate. So the only thing when you lower corporate taxes is you just gain for the economy in order that the corporation should be able to grow and give more jobs for people. But on a personal level, they have to pay 50%. So what can you increase? And what's the issue of decreasing corporate tax when it just makes a better economy? I'm just trying to understand that.
After Trump's tax cuts, the economy did not improve. We actually lost manufacturing jobs. We spent money. We deficit spent to do those tax cuts. We saw no economic benefits from Trump's tax cuts. We grew at expected rates that we were going to grow without the tax cuts. Nothing happened except our deficit got higher and big corporations paid less in taxes. But the market did not really benefit from the tax cuts very much, and we overspent. As a country, there's nothing really fundamental that Trump's tax cuts helped us with. We could have stayed at the Obama levels, which were actually the Bush levels, and we would have been completely fine. And I'd probably just go back to the numbers that we had under Obama and do trust busting. And we need more competition, so we need to break up these huge tech companies so they actually need to compete against each other. Facebook should not own Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, etc., WhatsApp. All these companies should be broken up with trust busting, like Teddy Roosevelt. And yeah, fix the markets and make power more divested or more decentralized in the society.
So what should be the rules for that? I understand your perspective and I respect that and it makes sense. But the issue on that is that who will be the person to decide those things? When you would tell me that it's about the people that decide those things, I understand you. But unfortunately, it gets to the same people that are claiming those claims that you claim are the people that are in control, and they are deciding things without the agreement of the United States, like all the United States citizens. They're just doing, once they are up on the ladder, they do whatever they want, and including Bernie Sanders, which I think that he has a lot of good points, but back to his own claim, he is the one to be this demagogue and decide all those stuff. He's the same as you should claim Elon Musk or whoever you want.
No.
So why should you give the power for him?
It's very different. Very different.
Trump and his people.
Very different. That's why I'm against Donald Trump, by the way, because Donald Trump wants the power to be in him for government. But the executive branch, the agencies we have, are passed in law by Congress, and then we have agencies that carry out laws Congress passes. So with trust busting, for example, we have different antitrust acts. We have the Sherman Antitrust Act, Clayton Antitrust. The Federal Trade Commission was made, and there were like the Consumer Financial Protections and everything. So we make these agencies and we make standards through legislation for what is determined to be the best form of monopoly busting or trust busting. And then we try to appoint the best people possible that can execute these plans to their best potential. I do not want the president making these decisions. The president should be putting people in place, hiring people who can do these jobs effectively in the most nonpartisan or bipartisan way possible. The president should not be making these decisions alone. Congress should pass the laws. The president should try to follow the laws, and then the courts can correct it if they think the executive branch is violating the law, or if they think the law is unconstitutional. So there's a whole system in America. That means, Bernie Sanders, speaks in a very popular way, but he would not be the person. Bernie himself would not make the decisions on which companies to trust bust. And we could look at Lena Khan under Joe Biden's administration being a really good example of someone that could do consumer protections without being too overbearing.
Yeah, I heard that. but in fact, you see that the way it's actually, to your point, that it's by the Congress and Senate to decide all those stuff, like you see that they don't agree on anything. Everything is either if it's something that could be passed by 51, so it depends who has the majority in that 2 years. So, and if it's something that needs more, we're meeting in a problem. Let's say now for the budget, we have a problem because we need to get more than 51. So now we're just going into the same issue. So what's the difference? This is an issue both for Democrats and both for Republicans. It's an issue for everyone. So once you have, to your point, once you have that you should have, in your perspective, should be 60%, then you would have a point. But first you have to get to this number, which is quite impossible. So
it's impossible in this political climate. How polarized politics is right now is an issue. But Republicans also need to reach across the aisle to work with Democrats. That's the point of our government. It's supposed to be slow. It's supposed to be difficult. You're supposed to make compromises. You're not supposed to have a dictator making decisions with a pen every second without consulting, or without having Congress pass laws. The executive branch should not be making laws, excessively with executive orders. You still need to be within the limits of the Constitution. But yeah, I like a good way to follow how the American government is supposed to function, and yeah, that's fine. I mean, during Franklin Delano Roosevelt, his presidency, they had huge majorities and they pushed through a bunch of New Deal era type policies. So you need to follow along with that kind of thing, probably, and become super popular, get the policies on the same page. And I would say also that politics was not this polarized in the past. The complete party split came probably really, really bad after Mitch McConnell, but especially since Reagan. It got super bad under McConnell once Obama took office, once he said he's going to obstruct everything. But yeah, the partisanship is bad. But Republicans are in lockstep right now to a point where Trump can say something. Trump can just pee on the White House lawn, and Republicans will all join him and try to get underneath the stream to get a shower. So it's really hard to convince them to have any type of bipartisanship or change of mind.
Listen, I don't try to defend or talk against Trump. I try to talk about logic. And I'm just continuing on that path. So back to your point, the first one to start this way of using executive power so strongly wasn't under Trump. It started under Biden. The way you can see it is because Trump didn't do those executive orders in 2016, which he would be able to do it the same as he's doing it now. He just saw the path that there's no bipartisan in the U.S., so he decided, okay, the best I can do, according to my opinion, according to the people that voted me in, I will do the most I can with executive power. So the country is split in half, and there's no way to move anything. So in order to get this, I think that until now, the Republicans were the ones to compromise, especially on budget. Because it was always Democrat, it was bipartisan, led by Democrats. It wasn't bipartisan, led by Republicans. And now when the Republicans try to do their stuff, they're being blocked by the Democrats, and which will.
Wait, what's one example of the budget that? Because when it comes to the budgets Biden passed and budget reconciliation, when they did a couple of the policies they did, Republicans did not vote for that. It was along party lines, and we had to give a bunch of compromises to Republicans. Democrats compromise with Republicans, and then Republicans vote for it. If Republicans compromise with Democrats and stop burning the Constitution and stop just supporting the authoritarian overreach of the president, then Democrats will get on board. But the Republicans have made zero effort at all, other than saying "do what I say" to the Democrats. They just want to be bossy instead of being actual leaders. So I mean, yeah, of course, I don't want the Democrats to follow them if they're not going to do actual compromises or care about the checks and balances of our government. Of course not. I'm happy they're blocking it. I'm happy they're blocking the budget. I'm happy they're shutting down the government. I'm happy they're shutting it down. It's been shut down essentially already, but I'm happy they're shutting it down.
Yeah, let's agree that both are gaslighting the other one. I'm gaslighting you, and you're gaslighting me. Like as a Republican, I'm actually registered as a Democrat because I live in New York, and in order to have any say, I have to be a Democrat in order to.
By the way,
vote for
Rogue
primary.
USA, Rogue USAID employee. Thank you for joining supporter tier earlier. I'm not sure if you were on there before. I'm shutting down the horizontal stream, guys, if you're watching. So go to the short stream. But yeah.
So I say that it's the Democrat issue, and you say that it's a Republican issue. But in the